Hey, Ascenters! How are you? We are booming. Anyway, congrats, Ascenters. I Love You Ascenters, over 1,000 people, and our community is growing. So we're a family all together. I know that there are lots of Ascent alumni that are not connected, and we're working on email lists and reaching out to people. And you yourselves know who you were with. Please feel free to add them to the group, let them know about the group, and we keep growing. Anyway, Totally Doable Tanya, episode 4. We are rocking. If you missed this, you can see the recording. You can also see it on the YouTube channel. Good. Let's get into it. So Totally Doable Tanya, trying to make Tanya accessible, doable, practical, understandable, graspable. Anyway, so to that extent, one of the things we do here is we explain things, translate them into practical language. The other thing is to kind of guide and direct how to deal with Tanya. So, for example, GPS for the Soul is a very successful book. It takes Tanya but kind of gives you ideas or thoughts outside of the text. And so we need to be guided how to relate to this book, how to have a relationship with it. Okay, so let's go. Chapter 1. Chapter 1 knocks people out. And not just because of the question at the end of chapter 1. Let's leave the suspense. We'll get to that one. Not in another episode. But chapter 1, the first half of chapter 1 is a knockout. But I'm going to spend a few, videos talking about it. But one thing is for sure, I want you to understand something. Breathe. Relax. The first half of chapter 1 is loaded with questions. There's a good reason for it. They're amazing. They're important. But it's something we're not used to. We question, answer, and we spoke about all the Tanya. I don't know if we spoke about it, but Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says that all the answers to all the questions can be found in the Tanya. Maybe this episode should have spoke about it, but we aren't. But the introduction to Tanya says all the answers, all the questions that you'll find in developing a relationship with the Creator of the universe, otherwise known as Torah and Mitzvahs. But all the answers can be found. But you look at Tanya, there's no, if you've got this, turn to this chapter, and you got that, turn to that chapter. It's not like that. So we need to know how to navigate this book. So one of the things, this lecture will be about navigation. Relax. Chapter 1 is loaded with questions. Read through it. Don't feel you have to grasp it all. But it's this idea, the questions don't get answered till like chapters 12, 13, and then 14, and as you start to flow. That's a whole, and it makes sense because it's like, okay, these are questions, and this is a very typical style in the teachings of Chabad Hasidus, which is that here's a question, but in order to address that question, we need to get smarter first. You see it in the talks of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, like constantly. Here's the question. Okay, let's step away from that question, and sometimes it's another question, and then another question, but we got to go get smarter. And then we're going to come back to the question. And that's what goes on in Tanya. It's a style. If you're not ready for it, it's kind of whoa. And I've got to remember so many questions in my mind. The questions basically revolve around what's a tzaddik, what's a rasha, and what's a beinoni. The questions revolve around what's success in life. Okay, and these are topics that we're going to save for future classes because I promise I got to keep it short. I could talk forever if I don't keep it short. But chapter 1, there's 2 halves to the chapter. Okay. The first half asks a tremendous number of questions. It's overwhelming. There are no answers to those questions in chapter 1. We begin the process of building up a background in order to answer it in the second half of chapter 1. But a lot of those questions are not answered until you got to wait till chapter 12 and 13, which means in the second half of chapter 1, and as I begin to move, it's background, So it's, and we need a map and we need a guidance, and we can talk about map in future talks. But don't be put off by those questions. The answers are coming. Understand what's happening, which is that those questions are there in order to really understand what's success in life. We're being asked to be a beinoni. Okay, what is this? And there's a lot of education that needs to go on, a lot of learning that needs to go on, and it happens, and it's all there. You get through chapter 9, through chapter 8 is just the structure of these 2 souls. Chapter 9, how they begin to interact with each other. And I'll talk about this a lot, about the structure of Tanya, where to find different things. Because a person can bounce around from different chapters as I'm looking for something in particular. But don't be off-put. Don't get knocked out. There are a lot of questions there. And then the second half, just make it through to the second half, and know that those questions are important. And I think in the next episode we'll deal with some of them to give you insight. But where really the bomb begins over there is where the Alter says, okay, two souls. Everybody is two souls, and we spoke about this in a previous episode about the importance of that. That's a main focus, is to help us understand, to visualize, and to see ourselves, to view ourselves and our world and our work and our inner work as these two dimensions. That begins where he says, V'neshamos and the Asisi, that there's really two souls. You are two and not one. And that's where the second half of chapter 1 begins. So anyway, enjoy the questions. And I'll give you in upcoming episodes, we'll get into a little bit more. But do not give up. Do not be off-put by the heavy amounts of questions. Questions are doorways, incredible doorways to answers. Judaism encourages questions. Think, use your mind. If something doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't make sense, and a person should say that. There's this kind of balance in Judaism between this like trust that everything has an answer and there's a meaning to it, but then there's also this aspect of where's my me in all of this? It's not Aseh v'nishma, accept the Creator, the whole thing, but then where's the nishma? Where's me in it? And questions are okay and wonderful and beautiful, and a major part of Judaism, and they help reveal the truth. So don't be afraid of questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and please feel free on any of these videos to ask questions and let me know. If I missed something in the chapter that you would love to see addressed in one of these episodes, use the comments. We're here for you. So that's it. We're not put off by chapter 1. And I think we'll continue to talk about some of the stuff in chapter 1. But know that chapter 1 has these two powerful halves of asking questions and giving us the GPS coordinates of like, okay, we got to figure this out and go get a whole lot smarter. And that's what we go do through chapter 8. And then we begin talking about, okay, what is a tzaddik, a rasha, and a beini? What are these levels? What levels can I achieve in life? What's being asked of me? And then we get into answering some of these particular questions. So there definitely are answers. It doesn't work like your novel or your Kindle book, but hang in there. And for sure, you don't want to miss the explosive, powerful, incredible part, which is that, hey, you're two. You are two souls, which is an amazing, amazing idea. It's really the basis of it all, to conceive of ourselves, to conceptualize and conceive of ourselves as two. I hope that helps you. And look forward to talking more in future episodes.